So welcome to our first InSEA Connect, a webinar series really focused on art education and education through art, and what learning and teaching and professional development spaces we might be able to connect by really creating a focus around the broader ecologies of artists, art curators, art educators, and people who work in our field. So Serena and I came up with this idea around the art world continuing to pivot. Pivot was a word that we seem to use a lot in the last 2 years. And for those of you who played, probably not netball like me, like I did as a kid, but netball had this pivot word that was always used in it because you ran, you caught the ball and you stopped with one foot and you were only allowed to pivot around, keeping that foot still. And it's a really interesting metaphor for me that I have played with in art education over the last 2 years. And so what does it mean for us in art education though? And what does the gallery and museum and broader library and archive space actually have to say or play in this space as well? So we have a couple of protocols for Zoom when we hold InSEA webinars, and these are held across the regions. And in June, when we bring our whole world council and regions together, we'll have similar protocols around muting your microphone during the presentations. And we have 2 wonderful guests who have given up their Sunday morning and Sunday evening as we top and tail the world. And so if your microphone is muted, you can use the chat function for any questions and comments that both Serena and I as moderators tonight will keep up on so that we can share those conversations at the end. The camera bit is totally up to you. You can turn your camera off if you want that to be just your name and blank screen. Get comfortable, because we hope that this will be a really innovative and hopefully even challenging hour of time together to think about, what is actually going on in the worlds that we all work in. And I think sometimes we've gotten a little bit used to the small bit of world that we've lived in the last 2 years, as COVID seems to have isolated us into our own space. But maybe to broaden up the bigger international conversation that we have here tonight with a global South and global North perspective. We are recording. And if you want to use any of those hashtags, if you are a part of the Twitterverse, then please join us with at InSEA_blog and the hashtag InSEA Connect if you would like to participate in that space, because we like to archive those tweets as well. And I'd like to acknowledge that I am here working on the stolen lands of Wurundjeri country. I'm here in Naarm in Melbourne. And I'd like to acknowledge the ancestors and descendants as traditional owners of the lands, waterways and skies that I have the great privilege of working and living on. I work at the University of Melbourne, and Zoom is a digital classroom space that we're using tonight. And it's important then that I acknowledge the spaces and peoples that I work with and the privilege that I have. And with that, acknowledge that the Wurundjeri peoples have been the custodians for many centuries on these lands and continue to perform age-old ceremonies of celebration, initiation and renewal. And I acknowledge this living culture and unique role Aboriginal peoples continue to play in the life of this region. Serena and I are very happy to welcome our 2 speakers tonight. If you got to read our Eventbrite, then you have a bit of a clue around why we brought you together, but that will unfold as we spend some time together. Serene is going to kick off with our first, I have to stop share, I don't need to thank you till the end. Kick off with our first speaker, which is about 10 minutes worth of presentation. We're going to run the 2 pieces together. And then a 10-minute discussion moderated by us, and then our second speaker will be David, and then we'll be able to open the floor and pick up some of the questions out of the chat and be able to unmute yourself so you can have a chat to both of them and to us. Serene, over to you.
Thank you, Kate. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So we are welcoming today, as Kate said, David and Wafa, and we will start with Wafa Gabsi. So thank you so much for your time and for being for participating today with us to present your work at Archivart. So let me introduce you quickly and then I will give you the floor. Wafa Gabsi, the CEO and co-founder of Archivart, an online art gallery created in 2019 in Tunisia, and she's based in Tunisia. And the main role of Archivart is to archiving, researching, editing, collecting, promoting artists, mainly from Tunisia, but also I think from Africa as well. And Wafa, of course, will give us more information about the amazing work she's been developing now and that has evolved also through the pandemic. And I think she has a lot to say about our topic today. Thank you, Wafa. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, and thank you to invite me to this wonderful conference. I'm very happy to be with you to present myself first, and then to present my work. So I'm a PhD in cultural studies, and I moved to Paris after 5 years in artistic fields in Tunisia, and then I moved to Paris, and I have my PhD in Paris 1 La Sorbonne, and then I moved to Berlin to have courses on curating. And through this, during all this year, 6 years, I was moving around the world to have different residency in art. And I was in the Delfina Foundation. I worked also with the Berlin Biennale twice, and I have also moved to Vienna for a workshop. So I made a lot of residency to understand how to work in the art market and how also to work with artists and to understand the world of artists. So my thesis was about the recognition of contemporary South Mediterranean artists in Europe and in the US art market. So when I was working during 4 years with artists, trying every 1 year and a half, trying to have interviews with them and to see how the mentality and the knowledge of the artists were growing. And I understand through the studies and through the whole experience I've made in different residency, that especially the artists from the MENA region and the Arab world have a lack of visibility in the art market. So I was thinking how to help them really, and how to help Tunisian artists to be more visible, and to introduce more the international market. So in Tunisia, in the case of Tunisia, we have only statistic about how is the market, how the sizes is too small. So we can't really understand the capacity of private galleries to buy the artworks, and we have no idea about the private gallery. So the only statistic we have, it's related to the states. And the few statistics that we have, they show that only 2% of the artists dealing with the state have the chance to buy their artwork. And it was I was shocked with this percentage, because I didn't know how is the market is small and the lack of the visibility of the artists. So I started to think about something that can help this artist to move on and to grow, and it was another, and we have also another problem that we don't have traces on contemporary art. So we know that modern art, we have some few books just describing the movement of the modern art. And for the contemporary art, there is like rupture, how to say it, rupture, separation between the two generations. So there's no information, there's no trace, there's no archive. That's why I needed to. It was really important for me to trace everything in the starting from the 19. So I was thinking, how can I make it? So I started first to think about a magazine of art where we can write articles and interviews with artists. And then I think we were in need to more information about it. And why not? Because now the digital world is growing, and why not we try to create something in this kind of work. So I say to my co-founder, what do you think of creating? We have a magazine, and then we create the platform, and then we have the both. And when we do our business plan, it was for the magazine. It was we don't have really how to say it, money to make it in real. So we decided to move online because it was very easier for us to make it. And my co-founder is an engineer, and it was very easy for him to make the platform. And then the platform is called Archivart, because for us, Archivart is archiving art. So in English, is archiving art. So for us, it was very important to respond to this lack of visibility, and at the same time to archive what is happening in the contemporary arts in Tunisia and even in Myer region and African arts. So we started to build it like this, and for us, first step, it was to create the online gallery, because for us it was easy to put the works online and to have accessibility for the artwork. And then we are trying to understand how to make archive alive. Means we are always trying to build a content about podcasts, articles, interviews, and also videos that we produce in our company. So we have our director here with us in the team, and we can produce video. We can invite artists in our office and make a production about, and make like an exhibition, and also product all his work. And it was for us very important to make this archive really alive. Now we have, I think, 65 artists. So 50% are women and 50% men. And we have also Histoire d'Art, means the article of art dealing with different exhibitions that we run online and also in physical way, because we have an office that we had transformed to a gallery, because we understand after 1 year and a half that Tunisian environment need to have a point that we see artworks, and also we meet with artists and collectors. That's why this year, in the end of 2021, we opened the house. We means the house of Archivart, the office. And we also invite artists, invite curator, invite professional of art, to collaborate together. And we have also the online gallery, and we have the collection. We have, as you see, the first main menu, and we have the collection, means every 3 months we change the collection. So we have always different collection in every 3 months. And then we have also the gallery, means the archiving work that we show in every collection. And then we have objet d'art, means art, object of art. We have also the page of artists that we show the biography of the artist, and we affiliate to this artist all the work that you can found in the platform. And we have Histoire d'art, means the archiving section of article, podcast, and interviews with artists. So for us, it was very important to have this kind of platform, because we gather all the artists in the same place. And for us, it's a reason and a big argument to see, to understand that when artists are in the same platform, we can also have traces in the same platform. So for us, it was very, very important to make it.
Wafa? Wafa?
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, you're still good.
I thought it was interrupted. I don't know why.
Go ahead.
I switched it in my phone. So for us, it was very important to put all the artists in the same time. Even a young artist or a confirmed artist, they accept to be together in the same platform. And it was for us a big deal. And we were very happy to have it, because in general, it's very difficult to mix both of them. And at the same time, the confirmed ones, the big artists, can encourage the young ones. And for us, it's very, very, very important, because when we invite them in a house, they can be together. They can network together. They can speak together about the difficulty, about all the issue, and all the problem that they face every day. And the whole work is based really now, I think in 2022, we are focused now on archiving all the data about the artists, Tunisian artists, because now we have the gallery, and the gallery is the program of the gallery, and all the issue of the gallery are solved. So now for us, it's very important to focus on the editorial section, and to make bigger the team of the editorial section, to have more traces, more article, more podcast, more production of video, and we visit the atelier of the artists. So for us, in 1 year and a half, we do all the stuff to make how to say it, confident the audience with the Archivart. And then now we will focus on archiving the data, because it's the main goal and the main subject of the platform. For me, it's very important, because I was really embarrassed when I was in Paris, and I returned to Tunis to have some information in Tunis, and I didn't find it. So I need to go back to Paris, or to move to Berlin, or to go to Delphina Foundation, or to go to library in London to have information about my own country. And that's why I was, no, it's not possible, and I have to make something, and I have to do something to put all this to information in my country. And even all the young student and professional of art can Google archivart.co, and they can find everything about artists and archiving of contemporary art. I think I do my 10 minutes or more.
Thank you so much.
Please,
yeah, that's great.
And if you have some question, or maybe after we can
yeah. That's amazing. I mean, the way you developed after your experience in, in France or in London or in Berlin, and then you came back with this idea. And in the meantime, I think in one of our conversation, you told me that you created Archivart in 2019, and then the pandemic happened in 22.
Yeah, of course.
And then, I mean, your project since the beginning was in digital, to award a digital platform. But tell us a little bit about the project you created with your team during the pandemic to give a visibility for the artists that you are supporting through that platform, and also to enhance and to encourage people to become collectors. And how that, I think the project was archive collector during Corona. Can you tell us about it a bit?
Yes, of course. So before starting the business of Archivart, I was incubated in an incubator, and it was 8 March 2020. And I was finished my ceremony of incubation. I was one of the laureate. I went and I was so happy. And on 13 March, there is a lockdown. You can imagine how depressed I was. So I was thinking what happened in my life, and how I will solve the problem, and how can I do. So with my co-founder, well, because he is an engineer, he tried to tell me, Wafa, don't stress. We will take a moment to think about it, and we will go for it, because our project is mainly digital. So we create a simple landing page, and we put of course we try to have an accessibility to artworks, and we was thinking how we will make it. So I was thinking, I say to Khalil, do you think that if I call artists and I try to deal with them to put their artwork in our landing page, and people have to, need to just to click to say I can buy this artwork, and all the money we will collect, we can do it to the donation. What do you think? And he say, how you will do with the shipping? And I said, don't worry, my husband have the pass and he can make it. And it was in 2 words. I promise it was in 2 words. And I said, you think that we can try it and we can be able to make it? And I said, okay, we will make it. So I found to 30 artists, because I was very friend. I am very friend with all the artists in Tunisian sector environment. And I say, what do you think? Do you want? Because all the museum, institution, ONG, foundation, all was in lockdown. And I was very, very sad about the situation of the artist, because if you can't move to see his atelier, or you can't move to gallery to see his work, he will die. So it was very, 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 very sad situation. And when I call all the artists, everyone was so exciting for the idea. And I said, don't worry, my husband will go to your home with his pass, and he will bring the artworks. And I have like archiving apartment with all the artwork around the kitchen, my house, the room of the children, all with artworks. And we started with the, how to say, bénévole people,
volunteering people,
trying to create the movement on internet. And I was working with 6 people, volunteer, like 1 graphic designer, 1 engineer, another boy who has also a pass. He can make the shipping with me. So it was really a very, very good energy around it. And we take just 15 days to prepare the action and to make it in the internet. Of course, we try to talk about to make it on different different pages, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Chain YouTube, and we create the movement Artists Against Corona. And we put on all this landing page, I think we had maybe between 30 and 40 artists, and we have 300 artwork. So, and we launched the group after, I think we put after 15 days. And the first day we had like 10 artwork or more were sold. And we were like, you can imagine it is possible. And we were very, very excited too. And I think the action lasted 1 month. And we had really bought, I think, 80% of the collection. So we had generated a lot of money, and this with money we donate to ONG and hospital in Tunisia, and we have also guaranteed to the buyer the certificate of donation. So everything was really in the professional way. And in this term of the action, we were like connected to different radio stations, and we invite us to different podcasts, to different interviews with the media, and we were really very very good movement around it, because we were 6 people working on it, and we believe it on it, and it was very, very successful. And this way, how Archivart was run in the digital way and the physical way always. Also.
That's great. That's really great and impressive. And maybe I just need to tell the audience that it's one of the few actions, I mean, amongst some few other actions led by other organizations, maybe, or by the state, the government, to help artists be, on the first front during the pandemic, and to show their works, because, in different way. The action that Wafa did with Archivart and her team. So thank you so much. Maybe Kate, if you have some question.
I just want to congratulate you. I mean, unbelievable. I love when someone sees a problem and just goes and fixes it. I love a person that just says, it's okay, we can do it. And even better when you're like, it's okay, my husband can do this. I just think that is outstanding.
It's the real story. I promise.
How absolutely wonderful, and how awesome for all of those artists that you are doing this really important philanthropic work as well, to actually support artists to work together, artists across their careers to come together. Unbelievable. I knew what you did, but just hearing you talk about it changes it, because you talk with such gorgeous enthusiasm. It's I would give you anything as well if you asked me. I'd be like, yes, here's my paintings. Fantastic.
And now they have a space, I mean, their own house, the project that you talked about, that they opened, I think maybe 6 months ago. So that means also all the energy that Wafa and her team gathered around all this project, and I mean the importance of such a platform for the artists who don't have that much visibility to other channels and vectors.
Thank you, Cyril.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And if you have any questions for Wafa, please drop them in the chat, or any comments. There's some other comments there to you as well. Wafa, well done. So somebody just as enthusiastic and passionate about art and the art world is David Sequeira, who I have the great privilege of working with at the University of Melbourne. David is going to tell a bit about his own practice and the kinds of work that he's up to, and then we'll have a chance to actually hear a little bit about what happened during the last 2 years in the pandemic as well. So over to you, David, and thank you for being here with us.
My absolute pleasure, and good evening, good morning, everyone. I'm coming to you from Wurundjeri land, and it's really with great joy and honour that I acknowledge the place that I get to make work on, that I get to curate exhibitions on, and you know, that my studio exists on. I'm going to spend the next little while sharing a little bit about a couple of projects that I've undertaken during the pandemic. And before we get started, a few things to know about me. I'm an artist and a curator, and I've worked in museums for a long time. And I guess the short version of all of that is I have been working in museums and collecting institutions at a time when people didn't know how to spell diversity, let alone know what it was or know what inclusion was. I'm Indian born, lived in Australia for 50 years, and I've put up my hand over 3 decades to be involved in Australia's cultural development in the visual arts. And let's just put it this way, I know what a microaggression is. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a project that I undertook during lockdown, which was a residency called, I was the inaugural creative researcher in residence at the Granger Museum. I'm an artist, and I'm the director of a small but highly influential art space in Melbourne. And we'll go along, like I'll show you some pictures and we can talk about them in a minute. So a lot of my work is based on the experience of architecture. This is an 18th century palace in southern Rajasthan in India. And you can see that the walls are decorated with these vessels. And I love the idea that this object that's just, you know, you find it in somebody's home can be part of architecture, that it's there breathing and exerting its influence. And these are my sorts of responses to it. So this is the Granger Museum, and these are 2 photos of the outside. This is my residency that's kind of come to fruition in the last week. It's called #Brown Man in a White Museum. And Percy Granger, the composer, is a very well-known Australian composer, early 20th century, but you know, his letters are full of racism. And it's, for many people, this museum represents the pinnacle of colonial values. And the people who invited me to do the residency, I asked them to empty the entire building of the contents. And I began to inhabit that space. And I got to choose which pieces of furniture we brought back. So these are Percy's 1920s music manuscript filing drawers that I've started to inhabit with my own paintings. And of course, putting my own vessels on top. He was kind of interested in music from other cultures, but, you know, in his letters, he never saw them. He always saw them as weaker than white man's music. And so I began an imagining of what it would be like if Percy actually embraced Eastern philosophy. I created a work called Felt Music. Music is felt. So these are pieces of felt, the fabric felt, on music manuscript. And then you can see on the image on the right where I've literally turned the museum upside down. Now, I know that this looks like some pretty colour sitting on a piano. And it is pretty colour sitting on a piano, except it's my colour and I'm a brown man, and that's Percy Granger's piano. And you can't open the lid of this piano. I've silenced him. I've turned his piano into a table. And much of my residency has been about that politic. We had a performance on Friday night of my own compositions. This is the ensemble. I worked with about 1,000 students throughout the university from all sorts of disciplines around this residency during the pandemic. So most of it was on Zoom. Percy and his wife were very interested in fetish. And just so you know, this museum has, I don't know, about 150,000 objects, from music manuscripts right through to Percy's underpants and toenails and his whips and all sorts of things. So these are his photographs. He taught himself photography in the 1930s. So he could document his body as his wife whipped him and he whipped his wife. And, you know, quite controversially, I've shown all of these objects, all of his whips. Many of his whips are made out of conducting batons. You know, I'm a gay man who's in his 50s. And in the 1980s and 1990s, when I was growing up, whips and handcuffs, this was the behavior of deviants. Now it's much more mainstream and people talk about it, but I was determined that we outed Percy about these behaviors. And there's no judgment from me about this. There's plenty of judgment from many members of our audience for this particular project, but the whole project has been about interrupting narratives. And that to me has become something very, very important about the pandemic. If there's anything that we're going to learn from the world having millions of people die, is we have to alter the narrative of who we are. And we have to alter the narrative around privilege and what privilege means. This is a big, fat book called Illustrated History of Australia that I'm standing on in my traditional Indian clothes with a white peacock, the emblem of India, in the background. One of the paintings I made for the exhibition, not for King White. So just a real testament, you know, I'm not fucking white. And it's a pun, but it's also a proclamation. And a suite of small paintings. I've been working with miniaturists in southern Rajasthan in India for nearly 30 years. They've painted me and the Queen. And this work is called David and Elizabeth, We Will Never See the Same Colour. And another work that I've been making during the pandemic in the same venue, these aren't part of my residence, these are part of another thing. And I've been really thinking about history and about the notion of embodied history at a time when the world is really looking at breathing. I'm interested in what does it mean to breathe? Not just as a physical bodily experience, but as a metaphoric experience. What does it mean to let a history damn well breathe? And I do feel like my history has not been allowed to breathe. I'm, you know, a gay man, gay Indian-born man living in Australia. Being gay has kept me separate both in India and in Australia. And so I've begun to reflect upon my own history. And it's one thing to see images in a book and on the internet, and it's quite another thing to embody them. So I'm in the process of making a series of 56 kurtas. These are these garments that you see these two men wear. On the left is my 62-year-old cousin, and on the right is his 31-year-old son modeling for me. This is an image from 1947, the greatest mass migration event in the world's history. It takes place in India in 1947 during partition. That's the image. And that's what it looks like for a young man who's 31 years old to wear that image. So I've designed all of these kurtas. I'm contextualizing this black and white archival photography within a bigger context of color and geometry of the other garments. And we're going to have a runway performance with 56 Indian male models walking down sharing this history in a different way to the internet. This is Lord Curzon and his wife. Lord Curzon was the Viceroy of India. This is him and her in 1903. They've just shot that tiger in India. So I'm interested in, like, people who think that history is this thing that happened, that it doesn't impact people, that it's not generational, that it's not inherited. What are they thinking about? And I made this project thinking about this pandemic. If we think this pandemic's coming to an end, I think we're crazy. I think that this pandemic, the impact of this pandemic's only just beginning. Sure, we've got a vaccine now, and sure, there are less people in hospitals, but the idea of pivoting, whoa, I mean, it's more like turn a hard left or turn a hard right. There's no pivot for me. It's like such an extreme change in gears. This is an image, this is me on the left, a very bad picture of me, don't judge me, but what you can see, that image is one of the street cremations that went around the world in India, where they didn't have enough funeral services and people were burying their families, burning their dead parents on the street. So what does it mean to live inside that history? The interaction of colour is important for me. I'm going to stop there and just stop the share for a moment because I don't want to take up all of the time just talking about my practice. Kate, did you have some questions you wanted to talk to me about? And yeah, I'll hand over to you for a little while.
I think you're touching on so many things, and also thinking about the work that Wafa's doing in not looking back, but ensuring that she creates a history from now going forward is something that digital platforms do. And so I can see, why Serene and I, in our own thinking that so collides, managed to bring the two of you together, because your work is so interesting in a conversation with each other. I think you've also touched on some of the things around what we thought the sector was trying to do. But, is the sector trying to do it, or are people like you and Wafa trying to do it? And then will that be a catalyst for change in the sector? Will the museums and galleries actually go back to whatever they thought was happening before, which we know is incredibly problematic? And is it people like you that are going to have to push the sector to actually make some change?
Well, I think maybe I'll share the screen and share a project with you that a curatorial project that I undertook with one of my PhD students to answer that very question. I'm so glad you've asked it, because I got to tell you, I tried my hardest during the first part of the pandemic to look at museum websites that, online exhibitions. I hated them. I couldn't navigate them. It was clunky, click on. I'd just rather open up a book. It's like, look at the picture, get a better picture. You don't have to, click on an arrow and drag yourself through some bad, clunky, you don't have to navigate that. I'm sure there are a lot of people for whom that worked. I'm not one of those people. I got incredibly frustrated. For those of you from international guests here, Melbourne went through a lockdown and we were only allowed to move out of our homes within a 10-kilometre radius for very specific purposes. My student and I co-curated an exhibition called Death, Transformation, Rebirth. And the exhibition existed with a number of works of art that fitted in a box. These are the works of art. These aren't valuable works of art. In some cases, they were works of art that existed. In some cases, we commissioned them. And we wrote an essay and we gave instructions, and we began delivering this box of art to people within 10 kilometres of our homes. And the idea was, if you can't visit a museum, why can't the museum visit you? And we gave the families, the people who got these, some of them were families, some were single people, some were couples. We gave them complete agency. They could install this exhibition wherever they wanted in their homes. We only asked that they took care of them. But you can see people put them up in on their walls. It was a mix of Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal art. This was one of the families, this is Jules, mine. When I opened the box, I felt excited about what would be inside. I was amazed by everything. I was amazed everything was cool. My favorite was the candlestick. You know, the idea that you light a candle and the candle is the art, that the duration of that is the art. And we made this project we curated this project deliberately, you know, death, transformation, rebirth at a time when the world is really thinking about death, transformation and rebirth. So I'll just stop the share, but Kate, to answer, I hope that kind of begins to answer your question. I began a question mark going, oh my God, I'm looking at the websites of major museums going, hell, is this what leadership looks like? Because seriously, if this is what leadership looks like, I'm out of here, because museums seem to panic. They seem to go, oh my God, we can't open. What are we going to do? And I'm not clear the results were great. With all of those resources, I'm not clear the results were great. And for, you know, I think if anything that's come of this, I think museums have got to deal with, I don't know what it is exactly around the rest of the world, but certainly a number of art museums in Australia have got to deal with, that they actually, for the last few years, have gone down the road of entertainment versus education. And I'm not saying that these two are mutually exclusive, but for example, one of the things that came up during my residency was, I don't want children to come to that exhibition. That exhibition contains material that some people would consider pornographic. And I've just begun, look, you know, we seem to have made museums and museum education into this one size fits all, this thing that we've got to, it's got to be entertaining, it's got to be fun, whatever fun is. Just so you know, I'm the ultimate nerd who has fun reading a book. I have fun just looking at a single work of art. I have fun listening to an artist talk. I don't need lasers and press buttons. I just need to breathe the same air as the work of art that I'm looking at. So to finish that little talk, Kate, I guess the pandemic's taught me how much I value an authentic art experience and an authentic education experience, where I experience myself as part of something bigger than me. And I experience myself having expanded in some way.
Thank you. Serene, did you have a question for David?
Thank you so much, David, for these spiritual last two sentences. And I think the reflection you are developing about the museum world and the, let's say, the industry, I think all these institutions share a common issue, which is how they're gonna profit from from their collection, from their programming, from their all the mediation tools they are putting. Because the main issue today, I think, for museum, and it's a big issue and struggle. I'm based in France here, for example, is how museum are they going to the less frequent, the less of audience who are coming to museum because of the border are closed, because there is no tourists, so how are they going to compensate that in another way? So I think the fact that, for example, when we entertainment, a lot of museums were maybe obliged to go through it, maybe because they just need to have money in there for their the end of the year, and which affect exactly maybe education, the educational process, and the role, the main role.
Mm.
It's a big challenging time, I think, for the whole industry, and now we notice that it's like all the digital transformation they make now, it's becoming more I mean, you need to pay to have an access maybe to an online MOOC or webinar, or which wasn't the case in the first year post pandemic, for example, or during the pandemic, and now they are noticing the importance of that. So yeah, I think it's an evolving process, and we will see. Now it seems like we are going over the pandemic. I don't know, which is a bit strange, as you said. Are we? And we'll see how this going to evolve. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you. There's a really lovely comment from Melina in the chat that says the importance of interactivity to invite audience participation is interestingly reflected through both David and Wafa's examples tonight. So it's a different slant on what that entertainment is, though, isn't it? And then what education is. So how do we do participation? How do we do interactivity? How do we live and breathe, as you said, David? How do we live and breathe with the art and the artists? How do we, you know, even the way that Wafa speaks about the platform, it's not a platform on its own. It's a platform that also has a physical space and a house that those artists work in together and meet together and talk with collectors and audiences and other artists. And so, you know, I think that it's not just then about the clicking, is it? It's actually about the ways that we work together with each other, not just click in websites or create spaces where artists can profit or private galleries can profit.
I kind of think, Kate, that, you know, I hear this term, get back to normal. Soon as we, you know, everything's going to be fine when we get back to normal. There are a whole bunch of people for whom, like all over the planet, for whom back to normal means a world of race. Oh, let's get back to racism. Let's get back to colonialism. This idea that everybody experiences the same normal, I just can't even, you know, I've really learned over the last 2 years that everybody does not experience the same normal. I mean, Wafa's presentation points that out so perfectly, that, oh, let's get back to normal. Wait a minute. There are still artists who make great work, who don't have a platform, whose lives remain unrecognized. That's what normal looks like for them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like that's actually what, why would you want to get back to that? I think this idea, and I look, why I wanted to be part of this discussion is because I sort of feel, this brings up Sarene's point, I sort of feel like in museums and museum education, we're answering a problem or answering a question the way we used to answer the question 2 years ago. We're not looking at what the world as it is right now. We're still answering the question from 2019. We're trying to get back to those programs or build up those audiences in the same way that we did in 2019, versus actually do what Wafa's kind of doing, going, hold on a minute. Actually, we need to recalibrate. We actually need to, those models, I'm not clear those models were great models then, and we need to evaluate those models again. And I can, for my own experience, the last 2 years have been incredibly intense in terms of looking at who I am for the sector and actually dealing with being a brown man in a white museum. And I would argue a white sector in Australia, and saying, hang on a minute, I've been in this industry at senior level for 30 years, and I actually can't see a great deal of change in the rest of my working life. What am I actually going to do about that? That's the kind of reevaluation I'm talking about.
Yeah. Thank you, David, for that point. And not to say this is, I mean, you are talking about the museum and what they did in Australia, but not to say, for example, if we can take the case of Tunisia, there is no museum, for instance, which is under the state responsibility, which showcases artists, contemporary artists. So we are not on a bench of looking what the museums are doing. We are hoping, for example, to have an institution that show that.
But I think, Cyril, that the private initiatives are very important, because even in the university now we try to create some spaces to also to showcase artworks. And for us, it's also like a challenge to create new model and to adapt this new model to the situation, because we are waiting to the museum since like, I think 10 or 20 years. So even the idea that, okay, you wait, and then you can move on and you have to create other things. That's why now we have a lot of private, and even it's small initiative, but it's very important that we show that we are also create our own models, and this model are also adapting to the environment. And also I think that the point that David was highlighting, that we don't need to come back to the classical way to think the audience, and even the way how to look to the past. Now the situation we have adapted, that we are between being on digital and being in physical. That's why now I think that even the audience are really how to say it, are really really ready to move to different model. And that's why for us we have to work on this time and to adapt on this time. And even we have a platform or a digital way, it's also important for us, even in Tunisia, to have a point of a rencontre and meeting with people, artists, because it's very important for our art scene. Even I don't think is in Melbourne or in Berlin or even in Italy, it's the same model. But the importance of this thing that
Hello? Kate?
Don't you hate that when someone's at their perfect point?
Yeah.
I want to hear the end.
I don't know what's happening.
We might have lost Wafa, and I so wanted it to be the last point of our wonderful webinar. The sad thing about 1 hour webinars is that they're just never long enough, and we could have this amazing conversation last a long time. Serena and I are very hopeful to think about what a sector-wide conversation continues to look like for the year, to broaden out art education into the bigger conversation and have that with our gallery and museum colleagues, so that we can, think about what the whole teaching, learning, professional development space looks like in partnership with our artists and curators. So we're incredibly grateful and thankful to David and Wafa for being up early and up late. Yeah. We should just call it the up early and up late with Kate and Serene. We could have our own little InSEA webinar series. But thank you so much to both of you. It's been so incredibly eye-opening. I have so many thoughts to take away from here, and how we might continue the conversation, I think, is going to be something Serena and I will have a bit of a play around and see how we might be able to connect us more closely with each other. Congratulations to Wafa for your amazing work. David, congratulations to you. I was able to be in the room at that performance the other night. An amazing, amazing piece of work that's happening at the Granger, and for all the work you do at the university as well. We will wrap up and ask you, if you are not a member of InSEA, to go and have a look at our website, insea.org, and have a think about what it means to be a part of a really big international community. of educators who are working together through art to think about what the next models need to be. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Kate. Thank you so much, David and Wafa, and for all our audience today. That was such a great pleasure to host this webinar, and we are looking forward to develop our conversation and to open up on a widely, internationally, and culturally diversified conversation. Thank you so much, and good luck for the upcoming projects.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.